right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, indeed, we're focusing on the agri sector, food, big subject matter. And we'll have here with us Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, who is the Minister of State for Agriculture. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Mokpe.
Good morning.
Pleasure to be here.
Minister. Good to see you.
Yes, indeed. Yes. We know that we won't have enough time today, so we'll just do what we can while we can, because there's several issues about food, food inflation, food security, food import tax, so many. So first of all, we'd like to hear from you. What is going on in the sector? There are several dissatisfied people out there about the agri sector in terms of what's happening to food security.
Well, thank you very much. Let me first say that, yes, you are right. There are so many things out there. And you realize that those things happening out there are more or less like a global thing. The global food system is definitely in a shock. It's witnessing a lot of shock as a result of so many factors. The Russia-Ukraine war is one of the key culprits, and then the aspect of climate change. But beyond that, our concern is Nigeria. And so we are aware fully that definitely the food inflation is a serious issue. Yeah. There are so many things around the aspect of people not having food or having capacity to have food as they want. Now, let's break it down. When you say food security, of course, you are talking about certain things combined. A person is said to be food secure if food is available to him or her, if that same food is available, accessible, and then affordable, and in the right nutritional content. So I would say very clearly that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands the issues even as they are unfolding. And that explains why it is one of the top priority area of our government intervention. And in this area, I would say you will see a lot of programs or a bouquet of activities taking place just to dampen and try to create the situation.
Maybe you should zero in on some of those programs because, for instance, food inflation, according to the statistics, they're about 35%, so to speak. So what specifically is government doing to address that?
All right, so you see, why is it so? That's the question you ask. To an extent, there are some components of food that are available, there are some that are not available. If we talk about availability in terms of, yes, you will get it in the market, but it's not sufficient. And so, because of the simple law of demand and supply, you will get, the price going, up. Now, what we have done is definitely to look for a way of increasing supply. And that explains why there was this distribution of, rice, which has taken place in the past few months. There was also distribution of, food from our reserve, about 42,000 metric tons of
people say that the reserves are actually empty. There are no grains in.
Well, there is one thing you should understand one thing. When you say reserves are empty, that is just, being too clinical. Every reserve, when you keep taking out and you are not putting back, what do you expect? So what we are doing right now is that, yes, we've taken some out, and already there is plan ongoing to restock. But that restocking will only take place when harvest comes on board. Now, the last harvest, you couldn't have gone to the market, because if you go to the market, you are now going to further increase the price, and that means affordability issue to so many people. So we are looking at all of this it's a very technical thing also, and we are looking at it from that particular angle. But let me say quickly here that what we have done from last year dry season is to increase our dry season farming, unlike before, which we have done with the wheat program.
Did that actually, what figures here? Because I also saw many complaining that the so-called plan for dry season farming didn't even happen.
No,
that the fertilizer distribution went to political farmers, not the actual farmers.
Well, I will tell you for a fact that myself and Senator Abubakar Kyari, since we came on board, have been upbeat about wanting to edge out portfolio farmers and political farmers. We are politicians, yes, but you shouldn't play politics when it comes to food.
So did you have data of the actual farmers that got all of this?
When we came on board, yes, we have data of farmers that have gotten all of this. Because what we have done is to say that the National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro Pocket Program is what we are using. And currently, as we speak, farmers are receiving various inputs being distributed to them as the season is ongoing. Now, the one we did for the dry season, our target was 120,000 hectares, and we're able to do 118 plus thousand hectares. And that was for wheat. We also did some for maize, some for rice. Now, this rainy season, we are targeting basically the food commodity crops. Rice, maize, millet, sorghum, cassava, and soybean. So let me say this. You see, we realized over the past years, we have not been taking our dry season farming very seriously. And you cannot just depend on rain-fed agriculture and be food secure. And that explains why the president said, look, with the current rate of mechanization, which is put at about 0.27 horsepower per hectare, there's no way our farmers can be able to produce enough. So we are having currently in the works a lot of mechanization program. The Greener Hope mechanization program is there. The Green Imperative mechanization program is there. The Belarus National Agric Mechanization Program is also there, where we intend to bring on board more than 2,000 tractors in the first instance. And the other ones too, the target is 10,000. Now, all of this is designed over a period of time to be able to raise the productivity of our farmers by removing the drudgery associated with farming. Okay? But what I want to say here is that while we are talking about these sustainable programs, our major concern right now is how do we stabilize the food system?
I think that's a big question because really, when this conversation was about to start, I was just looking at the fact that I'm the only woman here. And I think that, women tend to have a very sharper perspective when it comes to food and pricing.
But you enter our pockets, so we also...
And the figures don't lie.
Yeah, the figures don't lie, so we know.
The figures do not lie. Yes. I'm not talking about the figures, the big figures now. I'm talking about the prices.
Yes.
The money you actually spend in the market.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that if you speak with any woman right now, or anybody who has
even in my house.
Exactly. What you will be told is that the price of every yam now is a luxury. For many people, it's no go. They've substituted it with sweet potatoes. I think only recently,
the Irish potato price is coming down.
Exactly.
And that is the point.
I'm glad that some of these things you're aware of.
Yes,
Irish potatoes, but it got ridiculously high to as much as 18,000 naira.
Yeah.
Eggs are almost out of the reach of common people. I mean, one egg is 200 naira. It's unbelievable. A crate of eggs now is going to about 4,800 naira.
Because of the high cost of feed.
So what I want to know is some of these things, when you sit down and you look at the price of common commodities, yam, beans, rice, gari, how are you able to relate what is happening? Because the first thing you told us was that there's global shock. I'm wondering, hold on, there's been global shock many, many times. How is that affecting, what our local farmers are able to do locally? Because initially we're told it was insecurity. That was what has caused our own, food insecurity.
It's a part of it. It's a part of it.
But we have since been told that there's some work going on in that particular area. How is it not translating to lower prices of food in the market?
Let's get one thing clear. You see, agriculture has time frame. Now, a lot of production is ongoing currently. We're in the rainy season. And if you look at the fields, there's a lot of cropping going on. Those croppings are not food. They will only translate to food after like 3 months, depending on the period in which they take to, get it to be harvested. So until then, definitely this story that you are talking about will continue, because are we having enough? It's not all the food that we reserve. For example, it's only the cereals, the staples that are very easy to be reserved in our, what do they call it? And that's why, definitely as a program, as a government, the aspect of post-harvest, for example, is a major issue. And we are looking at so many programs now that will help us to intervene in the post-harvest sector, where, for example, just like you rightly said, the price of Irish potato has come down because harvest has started. Now, that of so many other commodities will continue to come down as the harvest period come on board. That will take some time. So, and that explains why, until that happens, you are taking stories, because for the Nigerian, he's talking about now, this very minute. And so we admit there is a problem, but then what are we doing to solve the problem? That is what is important. Okay,
so one of the things we heard was that the federal government has, removed, is it duty tax? I'm trying to find the particular, because we've seen a response to that particular story from none other than Mr. Additional, who is quite worried about his duty-free food import policy, depressing. Additional tells federal government. I think if that is in response to the federal government policy to remove duty tax
to open a
grains.
window. What government is looking at is the president is deeply concerned about this issue of food availability to the citizens. When he wakes up, he feels very concerned and worried. So the question is, while we have done a lot of all of these works, I'm telling you, it's not going to translate into food immediately as it is. So what would the president have to do? So he's looking at the possibility of having some food to be imported within this lean period. That's why it's not just an open blanket thing. And right now, the guidelines that we go around it is being worked out, because it's a policy pronouncement you've just had. But the guidelines around it will be worked out, because we are aware if you allow free import, then you are definitely going to have a negative effect on your production potential that farmers will be going into, in the sense that it will dampen the price. And next year, they will not have to produce. So you will now have a cyclical problem. To avoid that, that is why those policy guidelines will come out very soon. To guide this,
so, at the moment, window. We don't know how long.
No. He's talking about 150 to 180 at most days. Now, the aspect is that, naturally, in our normal cycle, the lean period, that is the rainy season, usually witness a lot of low supply until that production harvest started. Then you will now see the prices coming down. But because we've already had a hangover effect of those early crises, remember in 2001, 2002, we had flooding, a lot of rice fields.
You mean 2020? So 2020.
2020 up to 2021. There were a lot of those.
You said 2001.
Sorry, 2021.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, 2020 to 2021. Yes, you are right. So that hangover effect, you see, when you have a crisis, it will take you some time before you are able to return back to normalcy.
Yeah, but there was also speculation, and you can confirm or deny this, that part of what also affected us was that because our currency also fell, whatever harvest we had, we found that neighboring countries were coming into Nigeria to buy off a lot of our produce, and our farmers were happily selling.
Yes,
knowing that this was going to affect us.
That is true, but you saw government response.
What was government response?
Government response was to try to abate that, and that happened.
Yeah, but if that already happened, so we're not going to go back and buy food that, other people came here to buy because of the value of our currency.
Well, the issue is simple. You see, like I said, you are dealing with a particular time, point in time. Right now, as we speak, you've given me, you said the data don't lie. People are hurting. People need food. No, so what do you have government have to do? I've told you programs we are doing. Right now, as we speak, this rainy season, there's a massive support going on. Fertilizer distribution is ongoing for farmers to be able to, increase their productivity by applying it. But are they going to get fertilizer to eat now? No. Are they going to get food from that? No. Until the next 2-3 months. So in this lean period, what do? You must take action. There's this saying that a mother, when she comes home and sees her children hungry, she will definitely find a way to look for a solution.
So that's what's happening now.
So for right now, the president is deeply concerned, like I said. When I mean deeply concerned, because his vision for Nigeria is that no man or woman, no Nigerian should go to bed hungry. That's the kind of nation he wants to see.
Honorable Minister, I want to ask you whether you see some of the reports, that make their way into the dailies.
Yeah.
There's this special report done by Premium Times talking about how Jigawa villagers are linking declining farming outputs, urban drift to abandonment of dam. Did you see that particular story?
Well, I've heard about it, but let me say one thing. Sometimes people give report just to bring out the negatives. Jigawa state government is right now in the process of clearing some very silted waterways. They've done more than 50 kilometers. Desilting waterways that were formerly occupied by some pest, which we call typha grass. They've done that, and that has increased the capacity of farm production in that state. So I don't know which part of the state, I don't know which part of the state they are talking about. I'm not saying that Jigawa state has problems, but they are doing their best to situate. And that's why even in the wheat farming program, they contributed, we gave them 40,000 hectare target, and they ended up doing 55,000 or even more.
Only recently, too, the president went to Niger State to commission tractors.
Yeah.
Was supposed to have a very positive effect on farming. Now, some people went to Niger State and they saw a number of those tractors still at the airport.
That is their
overgrown
story.
with weeds.
Remember, that is not correct. I have right here, I have a video of these tractors in the field working as it is.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, it's not a question of that is theirs. The people who took the pictures, it's actually in their own interest to try and cover up what they saw. This was what they saw, that some of the tractors were still there, unused. I mean, at the airport, with weeds, overgrowing some of those tractors.
How many number did they see?
When you're talking about, I can actually send this picture to the MCR so you can see what it is, or I can send it to you, so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. It might not be a big number, it might be a small number, but the tractors were there nonetheless. So there are questions as to the plans that governments usually have when they award these contracts for the importation of tractors. What exactly is the plan to get those, mechanized instruments to the hands of the farmers who truly need them so that they can contribute towards food security?
Well, let me say the Niger State program is actually a massive program.
What did you call it?
I say it's a massive program.
Massive? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. From Niger State, I just remembered.
Yes. To Niger State we have 76,000 square kilometers of land. Obviously the largest arable land in Nigeria. So what the governor is doing, right now, they are in the field. They are working. I don't know what time those, what did they call it, the pictures were taken. But as I speak to you, I'm aware. I've been in the state myself. I went home, coming back, all over the field. As at the last time I spoke, I know they've planted more than 250,000 hectares. And their target is, they're still ongoing. So for me, as far as I know, it was not just brought for the photo ops. They brought these things because there is a massive program under a special purpose vehicles that was created. That is Niger Foods, government enabled but private sector driven. I think it's important for people to know that the program in Niger State is government enabled but is private sector driven.
That's state government enabled?
Yes, it's state government enabling it, but then it's private sector that is driving it.
But when you say private sector, what exactly is the plan of the private sector to get those tractors to?
They are already in the field right now working. That's what I'm telling you. They are in the field working.
Okay, I guess we'll follow up.
You see, the tractors are meant for what? For clearing the land, but also for planting, for spraying, for so many activities. And as I speak to you, I have a video here that shows that clearly.
Yeah, we've seen some, of course. Some of those tractors are there, but they say some others are also
that's what I'm saying. I don't know what time. I don't know what time they
We'll
took
just
the
double check with that one. But could you tell us,
Yeah.
if you say the president has been worried and still is,
Yeah.
so does it mean then, and then we're importing food for that window, does it then mean that we didn't achieve much with the state of emergency that was declared by the president about a year ago?
Well, let me tell you one thing. You know, a lot has happened, and a lot will still happen. But are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. That's why it's still an emergency. And that's why a lot of activities are being put in place. For example, like you were saying earlier, we have a special program that is actually, doing the details about all these things and what needs to happen at what stage. And as we speak, what we intend to do through the various programs we're having in the ministry is to ensure that we are going to have an all-year-round farming activity. Increase our dry season farming through irrigation. So we're increasing our potential to use irrigation to farm a lot of these areas so that back to back, we are having harvest, we go back to production. You have harvest, you go back to production. The idea is to stabilize the system, and that will take some time. Because before now, remember, it's only the rainy season. As at the time the emergency was declared, it's only rainy season. Rainy season is not sufficient to tackle the problem of Nigeria's food supply. It's not sufficient.
Is there any plan in place, price control mechanism, so that these prices don't keep going off the roof?
Yes. As part of the guarantee minimum price mechanism, all of those things are part of the guidelines being worked out along this, what did they call it, window that we're talking about. Because what government will do in this kind of situation is, fine, by the time you bring in this for the lean period, at least you don't want your people to starve. So you are bringing in food for this lean period. Thereafter, what happened? If it's going to have a dampening effect, then you have to step in, uptake the food at a price that encourages the farmer to go back to production next year. So those things are being worked out right now. That is the guarantee minimum price you are talking about. So we are aware, and that is why, yes, the concern by the president of the African Development Bank, it's true. Economically, when you talk about economics of agriculture, that is correct. If you keep importing, then those who are on the ground, perhaps your import will be cheaper, theirs will be more expensive because of the factors of production. Then at the end of the day, they'll feel, well, there is no need for me to go back.
When do we
are
expect
aware of all of this.
The results for all of these things that are being worked out?
As it is, I cannot give you a time frame as we speak, because I know a lot is happening based on this pronouncement, in the sense that the idea is to be able to do that. And even if you say go and import now, there is a window, time frame within which the movement of the food itself from the source into the country has a time frame. So all of these things is being worked out. And beyond that, we are also preparing for the end of harvest or the period of harvest. But most importantly, for next dry season again, because we've had the first one, we've seen the area, success we have recorded. We've also seen the areas where we have problem, and all of this is being taken into perspective so that we come massively prepared. The last experience we had, one of the challenges we had was irrigation in terms of the cost of fuel. So to that extent, government is intensifying its effort to have, solar-powered irrigation systems, so that way the price of, what did they call it, providing the irrigation services.
Are we subsidizing any aspects of agriculture in this country?
I would say subsidy or support.
What's the difference?
Well, I don't know, but to me, when you say subsidy, people tend to think
support.
In the negative.
Which aspect
we are providing support. First, we are providing training to extension agents, farmers, because it's one thing you have the tractors, it's one thing you have the seeds, it's another thing again for the farmers to have the capacity using good agricultural practices to do the right thing so that they can get the right output. So we are providing massive support on that. We are providing support in terms of inputs such as seed, quality seed, like the president said in his manifesto, plant the right seed, feed an entire nation.
I'm just a little curious as to whether this policy, this importation policy, is going to really have an effect on, the prices, because what you're actually trying to do is bring down the prices. Isn't that correct?
That is one of
the areas. You're hoping that
but remember, the other microeconomic and physical issues also are being tackled at a different point.
Okay,
it's not my area of beat, so I cannot even speak about that.
The idea is that when there is more than enough supply in the market, it should bring down the price. But looking at the fact that our currency has weakened somewhat, when you compare it with the currency of other neighboring countries. It doesn't look like that might exactly be the solution.
But I think they're stabilizing.
Has there been any, real calculation to see what exactly we need to bring in and at what price, and for it to be able to actually affect what is currently on board?
Those are the works I said we are currently having, because you see, when you make a policy...
You're still having it?
Of course, definitely. When you make a policy pronouncement, then a lot of things have to happen.
Like I said, the policy pronouncement was made on these calculations.
Well, it's made on this calculation to an extent, but then you also need to have it right, because now you want to, dive in. And when you want to dive in, you have to make sure that you are not diving into sharks.
Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain and Maupem. Perhaps, Senator, one of the challenges that we're not really looking at here now is the logistics. Looking at all the initiatives that we've taken, to try to stem the tide. Look back, just maybe not too far away, maybe just from, say, even 2011. The agricultural transformation agenda of the government of the day aimed at increasing agricultural productivity and reduce food imports. We know where we are about that time. That also informed the previous government coming up with what they call the Anchor Borrowers Program, which, of course, we all know what has come out of that as well. So it's not that we haven't had initiatives over time. What would you say, okay, maybe I should ask it this way, has government been able to track what the real problems are? Because it's not a dearth of ideas. Even the previous government came up with the Economic Sustainability Plan, and an integral part of that program was agricultural intervention, was food productivity. Have we been able to track what the real problem of these initiatives are?
Thank you very much, Ayo. Let me say here that, yes, I'm aware of all those programs. I was in the Senate, so most of these things, we also saw them as committee members. But let me say that what we need to understand is, for example, the idea of food security is you ensuring that food is available. But not just available, accessible to the person, because if there is food in Nigeria and it's not in my town, it's not accessible to me. So, and if I go to market and I cannot be able to buy with the money I have, then it's not affordable to me. And remember, it's not just to go and buy corn and come back and eat. You should be able to buy, a nutritious food so that on a continuous basis, you are able to eat and have sufficient energy to have a clear mind and so on and so forth. So all of these things are the things we are now looking at more detailed. Now, like you rightly said, the idea of increasing productivity of Nigerian farmers has to come from so many factors. One, they have to have the right seed. And I will tell you that as at the time we came on board, we met a seed system that is more or less almost on its knees. And as we speak this year, all our research institutes have been given the target to produce the right breeder seed.
Senator, just 1 second.
And also
I'm not sure that you're answering my question. The question that I'm asking is, these initiatives are amazing. They are, just as you said, they are good initiatives. They are initiatives that you're aware of.
Yes.
The agenda has always been exactly what you're talking about. Make food available for the people. So what is it that has hindered them from achieving the results? Because if we do not track the problems...
Just a second. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The first stage, Ayo.
Yes. Go ahead.
The first stage, let me tell you, the first stage is that farmers need to have the right seed, that right seed that they will plant, so that they will have a higher yield per hectare. And I'll give you an example. If farmers are getting 2 tons per hectare, will you compare that with a farmer that is getting 20 tons or maybe 10 tons or 9 tons? So the whole idea is that, yes, we have farmers who go to field, but what are they making? They are making some very low yield. So you need to do everything you can to increase their yield. Now, the first stage is the seed that they plant. Are they planting the right seed, or they are just planting just anything they call seed? And I'm saying that you said, have we been able to understand where the problem is? And that's what I'm telling you. As part of the first thing we have understood is the fact that there is a problem with the seed system. And I said we have fixed that now. Right now, all the people involved in the seed, the National Seed Council, the Research Institute, the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, they are now working in cohort to make sure that this right seed is going to continuously made available to our Nigerian farmers.
But that is
number one.
Just a second, Senator. That is at the end of the chain. Back in time, you would remember.
No,
just
at the
a second.
beginning of the seed.
I'm coming
It's
somewhere.
the beginning of the
I'm
seed.
coming somewhere, Senator. I mean, you're talking about the farmers, and that's okay.
All right.
But it's not that the farmers haven't always been there. They've always been there. Since the 60s, they never went on break.
Yeah.
But at some point, we turned our eyes away from the farm. Now we're struggling to go back there. The farmers have always been there. They never went on break. So what is it nationally or even at the state level that we stopped doing that we need to get back to in terms of soft or hard infrastructure? Otherwise, Senator, we will still be talking about this thing for another 10 years.
I understand the issues you've raised, Ayo. I think if you'll be patient with me also to give you, because one statement will not provide the answer you want. I have to take you through the entire meal. What I'm saying here is that the beginning of every agricultural operation has to do with, okay, first, even land preparation. The current land preparation is done using what? Hoe and cutlass, manually, and so on and so forth. And that's why I said what we are having right now as mechanization is 0.27 horsepower per hectare. Meanwhile, even in Africa, the average is 1.7 horsepower per hectare. So how do you expect a farmer to be able to be productive? And I'm saying that because you understand that problem, government has come up with a very robust mechanization program. That's the first one. The second aspect is seed. If you don't plant the right seed, you are not going to get good yield. Yes, you've gone through the 4 months of your work in the farm, but at the end of the day, you end up with 2 tons per hectare. But somebody who did the right thing, using the right seed, having the right knowledge and skills, when to plant, when to apply chemicals and all those other things, agronomic practices as we call it, he is very knowledgeable on those things. He is getting 5 tons, 6 tons per hectare. So we understand where these problems are, and we are all frontally attacking these issues. But beyond that also, even when it comes to harvest, some farmers will have very large field. By the time they start harvesting, they are not able to finish in good times, and a lot of things happen to those things. We are also thinking now of bringing in harvesters. Right now, as part of the mechanization program, there are combined harvesters that are being brought on board. In fact, this was used in the last dry season farming for wheat, where combined harvesters was used to help farmers to harvest their wheat. So those are the issues that we are taking one after the other. And it is when you do this that you can guarantee that the farmer is going to have a good harvest.
Okay.
But beyond that, we are dealing also with post-harvest losses.
Well, Senator,
because of this, we don't
have much time, but you know, a number of things keep bugging my mind. On the one hand, you've just talked about post-harvest loss now. And studies indicate that post-harvest losses in Nigeria can range from between 20% and 50%. What happens is that the farmer is going to put the cost on the only part that he's going to sell. That's on the one hand. So that's 50% lost. Then there is a cost of logistics. That can range between 30 and 60%. Depending on distance and a number of other logistics. Now, that leads to the question of what the states can do in this regard. If the states are able to intervene in the area of logistics and have specializations for each state, a good amount will be saved from that percentage of logistics. So if for your state, for instance, can produce all that it needs, it doesn't have to go too far. And if there is enough partnership between the states, you know, some of that logistics is also taken care of. On the one hand. On the other hand, you've just talked about the fact that there's post-harvest losses now. Is there a role for states to come up with all of these storage systems? Because you can't govern from the federal government and expect that all of these things are just going to go hunky-dory.
Absolutely.
So what is the partnership
but
plan?
Let me give you what is happening. Right now, as we speak, there is Produce for Lagos initiative, which Lagos state government has an agreement with Kebbi State for the issue of rice, and they also have with Niger State now, just to justify the point you have made. So I agree with you, and I think in our engagement with states as we speak, definitely all of these things are beginning to take place. And that is why you will see many of the state governments are now coming on bullish with respect to their programs in agriculture. They are paying more attention to the issues around those things you have spoken about.
Okay, so could you talk to us, because I mean, you spoke about those agric extension agents.
Yeah.
And then if you could shed a little more light on those states, because many still like to know how are these agric agents being trained and where are they going to be attached to in the states? What's the partnership or collaboration between government and states?
All right, what we have looked at here is that extension agents are operating at the local level. So for every program that we are promoting, we have provisions for training of extension agents that are based in the state. And remember, in the state, they are also based in the local government where the farms are. So for every program, we identify the number, provide training for them. The National Agricultural Research Extension Liaison Services, NARLS, is the specialist agency for that. And we use that venue to provide that training. And usually we first do it as a train-the-trainer. So that way, because you cannot take the entire, country at a time. So for each particular commodity, when we have a program that we are running, we bring all of these, what we call subject matter specialists, train them, and then they go back again and train more extension agents on the ground. But then we also realize the ratio of extension agent to farmer is still something that many farmers will not have the required information. So right now, we are currently working on an e-extension program that we're going to develop an app that will be translated into the major languages so that farmers will be able to access information and knowledge to guide their operation.
For those who say they plan to protest food shortage, food inflation, probably next month, what can you say about what is government expectation? What target from the farming that is going on now that will get into the market, and how is it expected to impact food inflation?
Well, let me say this. I know for a fact that given what we have experienced, we are definitely making plans to ensure that we reduce the post-harvest losses, because it's about mopping up. When you don't take these, products from the farmers when they needed it to be taken up, and it goes bad, it automatically reduces what is available. So government is taking this very seriously. We have silos. Remember, we've taken out things in the silos in batches, and so we need to get back to restock. Now, in doing that, definitely government will come out with, a specific explanation on this to ensure that farmers don't get bad price. Because one thing is certain, if a farmer gets good price, it encourages him to want to go back to farm. But if after suffering, you come back and you are not able to make anything, definitely you will not want to go back. So we are aware of that, and government will do all in its capacity to ensure that we rather encourage more people to go back to farm as it is, because this year, I will tell you, a lot of people have gone back to farm. I've traveled from Ilorin by road to Abuja just like about 5 days ago. And the entire fields, left, right, honestly, is all.
Okay, are you disappointed that the livestock ministry is being created? Some say should have been under the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, Mr. President has shown great concern about the livestock sector and would like to see it developed. He has made a pronouncement, and I believe that is a vision, and we're supporting that vision.
Senator Ali Sabi Abdullahi, Minister of State for Agriculture, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Business Morning on Sunrise with Ladi Williams is up next.